Hey there, it's Dusty Thunder with another Reddit story for you. This one comes from the AITA subreddit and is titled, Am I the astronaut for abandoning my parents at an island in the Caribbean so I could get back to our cruise in time? I graduated from high school back in December. As a gift, my parents got me a cruise. It was also for my 18th birthday. It was also a family vacation. We usually stay at all-inclusive resorts, but I have always wanted to go on a cruise. I told my parents it was different, and that if we went on excursions, we had to follow the schedule no matter what. Well, it was a week-long cruise, and they would not head back to the ship when I said it was time to go. They were busy shopping and bargaining with the locals. I finally said that I was heading back to the ship. My mom waved me off. They missed the departure by a lot, like 45 minutes. They got a hold of me through WhatsApp. They wanted to know why I didn't get the boat to wait for them. It's like, well, I was holding the rope and I was trying not to let it leave port, but it just wasn't strong enough, Mom. I wanted to scream that they were not going to inconvenience 3,998 people because two could not understand what a schedule was. They ended up having to fly to the next port from there, and it was expensive. They are pissed at me for leaving them behind. Yes, that's right. I am the ship's captain. I forgot. Sorry. I don't know what I was supposed to do. They literally told me that they knew what they were doing. I wish I had never asked for this. They are making me miserable because I left without them. Let's bring her up to talk about it here, ladies and gentlemen. The one, the only, Candy Thunder.
I laughed out loud when I read the story. NTA all the way. Cruise ships do not wait. It was like it was actually like a fear. We went on a cruise together, and I went on one before that, but it was like a fear of getting left behind. Mm-hmm. So I would like be there earlier than needed to be because I had that fear of like getting stranded in an unknown place. So. Not the asshole. Your parents are major assholes, and they're supposed to be your parents. Like, you're only 18. They're supposed to be the one handling the things. Like, you shouldn't have to remind your parents that it's time to go back to the boat.
Don't they go over this on the boat, too?
No, they
aren't they like, by the way, we will leave your ass if you are not back here on time, so make sure you get back. And they're like, oh, they won't leave us.
And these are like giant ships, so they're like, why didn't you have that ship wait for us? I'm like, yeah, because the ship doesn't care. The ship is like, we'll tote you around the ocean, but it's your responsibility to get back to us on time. That's basically how cruises work, right?
Yeah, and they have the excursions.
Yes.
They have excursions, and most of the excursions, like, will tell you, right? They're like, okay, like everybody's heading back now. But if you go on like a one-off kind of independent thing, but
true.
They were shopping and they were haggling with the locals, and the locals, it doesn't matter what kind of cruise you do, as soon as you step off the boat, like, you could spend all day shopping and haggling if you really wanted to. So that's their own dumbass fault. You want to do the honors and hit the button? NTA. 67% of voters
where are the parents,
were correct.
though? It's just an ask on, too.
Where are the parents?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I don't know.
It's like the Carmen Sandiego thing. Where in the world are OP's dumbass parents?
That's awesome.
Somewhere between Port A and Port B.
Okay. So their parents are asked on too. I won't hit it.
Do it.
But I do need to know.
Do it.
Okay. I do need to know how you guys say coupon, because I say coupon, and Dustin corrects me like every time. And I'm like, I was born this way. That's how I say it. I don't feel like correcting.
Don't you Lady Gaga me.
I can't help. I was born this way.
Hey there, it's Dusty Thunder once again with another Reddit story for you. This one is from AITA and goes like this. Boyfriend had to wait for the shower to dry out because of me. So I've been with my partner for almost 9 months. I honestly love him to pieces. However, we're both very steadfast when it comes to our views/beliefs, etc. Today it was super hot and sticky, and we decided to vacuum out the vents in the room to increase any airflow. I have terrible allergies, so he suggested I step out while he did this. Knowing it would only take 5 to 10 minutes, I stepped into the bathroom and took a literally 2-minute ice-cold shower. I had already showered earlier this morning and just wanted to feel the cold water. So by the time I get out, he's finishing up. He gives me the all clear, and upon entering the room, he's visibly pissed off. I ask what's wrong, and after some hesitation, he tells me that he had planned on showering, but now would have to wait for the bathroom to dry out. I assure him the floor is dry and I cleaned up after myself, even adding in that I had used cold water so steam shouldn't be an issue either. He says, no, the shower. I can't be in it while it's wet or I might slip and fall. Now, I know people get on each other's nerves after a certain amount of time, but is this just picking or am I being insensitive here? Top comment here, isn't the floor going to get wet when he has a shower? I'm dumbfounded. My flabbers are gasted. This is beyond beautiful. Yeah. I'm what? Honey, I think you need to be questioning the entire state of the man, not just this particular scenario. I think you need to be looking at this whole shindig and saying, is this really the man I want to spend the rest of my life with? You've been with him for 9 months so far, and this is the deal breaker. Honey, if you found a man that isn't smart enough to figure out that the shower's going to be wet while he's in there, he's not going to be able to figure out how to make you happy forever. Because let's be honest, that's a labyrinth. That is a constantly rotating Rubik's Cube that's different every damn day. This boy ain't going to be able to figure it out, okay? I don't know where this character came from. It just showed up. So we'll just roll with it. But in all seriousness now, I know this raises bigger red flags than just the shower to me. I'm like, boy, you dumb. Like, we got a problem here. Now, there are some situational like oddities with people where some things they just don't grasp as quickly, but still, I'd be like, I'm afraid for you. Because navigating life with someone, I would imagine, is a lot more difficult when that someone can't carry their intellectual weight, if that makes sense. Also, though, like, grab a squeegee. If you don't want it to be wet when you get in it, sir, grab a squeegee. Dry it yourself. You're okay with your own wetness in the shower, just not mine, which is odd because, you know, we're a thing. So, that's high maintenance. Or, you know, some people just have isms. Some people have like very particular things that they want done. And for him, the shower has to be dry because he might slip and fall. I don't, but his reasoning is what doesn't hold up here, right? His reasoning is just, it just doesn't hold water. Sorry, I cracked myself up. Said his reasoning didn't hold water. Nothing. Tried to explain it to Candy Thunder. All right, here we go. Hey there, it's Dusty Thunder again with another Reddit story for you. This one comes from the AITA subreddit and is titled, Am I the Astronaut for Telling My Parents We Aren't Giving Them Money and They Need to Humble Themselves? Throwaway to keep this separate from my normal account. I, 38 female, and my husband, 41 male, have been stressing over my parents. My parents are screwed as they took out of their pensions at 55 and have only about 100 to 130K each left. Their house has some equity, but not as much as you would think, as they have withdrawn from their equity line of credit several times. My dad has a $100,000 truck and a vintage Porsche, and my mom has a 7-seater when they are the only ones now. My dad is very prideful and refuses to take anyone's advice, so it was a shock when they came to me and asked for money. We don't want advice, we just want money. He has had a lot of health issues and told me he is going to be taking Social Security now, he is 68, and quitting his job, which means they cannot afford their mortgage or car payments. This totally blindsided me. I had no idea how bad it was until now. Thinking back, I guess I should have known as they buy so much unnecessary crap, but my parents always acted like they were rich. I told them point blank that I wasn't funding them until I could see all their accounts and assets, and this caused a huge fight, but they eventually relented. I went through what they had, and they really don't need my help. They just need to downsize dramatically. My husband is a CPA, so he knows this stuff, and we went through and told them what they needed to do. They needed to sell all the vehicles and get a reliable sedan. They need to sell their 3,400 square foot home and buy into a single home with a basement suite or an apartment. I think the apartment is better, and my dad struggles to mow the lawn and hires someone now anyway, but my mom insists she needs land for a garden. After that, their Social Security payments would be enough, and they would still have a small nest egg. This was met with them complaining that they would live like prisoners. My parents were angry if they got a small single family that they would need to rent out the basement. My dad insists the basement which he has a man cave, is necessary for life, and my mom refuses to downsize as she has a whole room full of her clothes at their current home that can't fit into a smaller house. So one of the guest bedrooms is just a big closet. Don't get any ideas, Candy Thunder. I got mad and told them they needed to humble themselves since they are the ones asking for money. This resulted in them yelling how ungrateful I was over the phone until I hung up. I told them they had to do this because I was not helping. They still have more assets than my husband and we have a son to save college funds for. My parents have been trying to guilt me by saying they gave me great Christmas presents and college funds, so I owe them. I feel like that was a tiny proportion of their spending, and it did not put them in this position, but I am obligated to help support them when they can downsize and support themselves. I lost. I was wrong. It is NTA. And the question, by the way, was, am I the astronaut for telling my parents we aren't giving them money and they need to humble themselves? You know what's interesting here is that they would rather be humbled enough to ask for the money, which takes, like, you have to humble yourself quite a bit to do that, right? Rather than, I mean, that's a one-time thing though. But what I don't understand is that for their lifestyle, this would not be a one-time ask. For what they're trying to do in the position that they're in, this would be a regularly scheduled calendar event ask. It would be repetitive. It would be routine. It would be repeating. It's not. I understand there's a lot more pain involved with taking a step down lifestyle-wise, but looking at the reality of the situation, there's no way that their child is going to be able to support their own family and supplement their lifestyle for eternity. It's just not going to work. But to them, that's like, that's not an option. It's just simply not an option. Also, yes, take note, my children, all of the Christmas presents that you get now and any kind of support you get from us will be called in later in life, and you will owe us back all of that money. You owe me. That's not a gift. Like, you're trying to come back and do that later on to your kids. Like, it's not okay. I mean, it is desperation. Pride is the issue here. Like, money is not their issue. Pride is their issue. Hello there. Once again, it's Dusty Thunder with a story for you from Reddit. This one comes from the AITA subreddit and is titled, Am I the Astronaut for Telling My Wife She's Gatekeeping My Time When It Comes to Our Kids and Her Emotions? Before we go into the situation, I, 33 male, own my own company, but the job requires me to be away from home for weeks at a time. When I am home, it's usually only for 4 to 5 days before leaving for work again. My wife, 30 female, is a stay-at-home mom who is often overstimulated and who just recently started her own small business. Now on with the situation. So my wife texts me this evening saying I may want to call my daughter tomorrow and talk to her because she's had a rough day. According to her, my daughter was tired. Our two boys were fighting, and this caused my daughter to become upset and start crying for me. My wife, being overstimulated, didn't let her call me so she could talk to me. When I asked why my daughter wasn't able to call me, my wife responded with, I was overstimulated and just wanted them to go to sleep. When I read the word overstimulated, I called her. My wife's love language is affirmation, and I've learned that calling and giving her words of affirmation helps her calm down. We talked for several minutes with me telling her how great of a job she's doing with the kids and with sales at her business. Because honestly, she has been doing great with keeping the business up and holding down the home front. Then she asked, Are you mad that I didn't let her call you? I said, no, but it does upset me when I find out one of my children was literally verbally crying for me but wasn't allowed to call me. This caused her to blow up on me, saying I don't know what she goes through on a daily basis because I'm always gone for work and that she feels like I don't respect her feelings as much as I do our children's feelings. So I brought up that this wasn't the first time she's done this and asked her how it would make her feel if one of her kids were crying for her but weren't allowed to call her. She again said that I wasn't considering her feelings, so I asked her why she doesn't let them call me if they've been bad. And she replied, I'm hanging up now. I don't appreciate being told I gatekeep my kids' phone time with their dad as a form of punishment, or that you're not respecting that I didn't let her call because I was overstimulated. Call her in the morning. and she hung up. I never once downplayed the fact that she was overstimulated. I just pointed out that I don't want my kids to ever feel like they can't call me when they need me to talk to them after a bad day because it might cause someone else to be upset. So, am I the astronaut? Too long don't read. My wife didn't let my daughter call me when my daughter was upset and is now mad that I implied she gatekeeps their phone time with when she's overstimulated or trying to punish them. Edit, I call my wife and kids every morning and FaceTime them for about 2 hours each night. The question was, am I the astronaut for telling my wife she's gatekeeping my time when it comes to our kids and her emotions? That was a confusing title for this, but I get it. I get it. This is a not super clear, not super simple situation here. Okay, so there's a lot of NTA, and I understand that. However, I think the flip side of this as a parent is that, look, whenever a kid is upset, specifically if they're upset because they're having to do something they don't want to do, they're always going to want the parent that isn't there. They're always going to want the parent that isn't the one making them do the thing they don't want to do. And if we allowed Navy Thunder to call whichever one wasn't there because the parent who was there making her do the thing she doesn't want to do because she just wanted the other one, we'd be getting 30 phone calls per day. You know what I mean? Like, their kids will manipulate this structure. So as in mom's position here, I can see where it's dangerous to let them start doing that. Now, I understand dad's point of view too, because if one of our kids was like, I want to talk to my dad, and someone was like, no, I'd be like, the you did. But I understand both sides of it here. Like, I'm torn on this. I don't know. It's kind of an NTA and an ESH for both of them. I think this is just a communication issue. They have to get on the same page about how they're going to handle this kind of thing, because it is a parenting thing more than it is a personal thing. That's my opinion on it anyway. But I'm going to go here because it is, NTA/ESH. It's tough. I don't think either one of them is an asshole because they have a reason for doing what they're doing, but they're on different receiving ends of the situation, and they need to come together and both agree on how they're going to play this out. Actually, I think in this specific instance, I'm a little more in mom's favor, because it's whatever parent is on duty is the one that's calling the shots with the kids, right? Like, how she's going to handle this situation is how she best sees fit at the time. For him to get involved on her calling the shots when he's not there is tough. I'm a little more in her favor. It's still an ESH. It's just a communication issue. And people may firmly believe that he was in the right or she was in the right. And this is just I think a worldview, life experience thing where I have the view that I have. Nobody else is going to have exactly the same view. I understand that. And I respect your view of it based on your life experience to this point. It's just it's a tough situation for me. And I could see where if I was stuck away from home often, I would feel the dad guilt of not being able to talk to or see my kids often. And that's probably driving his response. And the mom guilt of having to be the one that's there dealing with everything and feeling like the bad guy all the time because kids are calling out for dad. And she's like, well, I'm right here. Am I not good enough? Like, they each have their own shit they're dealing with right now. I understand their viewpoints, but they need to come together and form some kind of alliance here, because if they are on opposite ends of this thing, they're going to end up just butting heads over and over and over again. Hey there, it's Dusty Thunder once again with another Reddit story for you from the AITA subreddit titled, Am I the Astronaut for Assuming I, 36 Male, Would Still Be the Best Man? In 2021, Peter, 36 male, my best friend since childhood, got engaged and asked me to be the best man at his wedding. In the years since, a lot has happened. He's had a baby, and I separated from my wife, met my girlfriend, Nina, 39 female, found a new job, and moved to a new state. With everything that's happened, communication between us isn't what it used to be. But I definitely have noticed there's been no effort made at all on Peter's side since the move. He hasn't even met my Nina or asked about my new job. This week I received an invitation to Peter's wedding in October. Nina was included rather than being a +1, on which I was actually very appreciative of. To RSVP, there was a wedding website his fiancée had made with information about the wedding. One of the sections on the page was Meet the Party, and it had photos of each member of the bridal party along with who they were and how they knew Peter and his fiancée. I scrolled past the bridesmaids only to see a photo of Peter's younger brother listed as best man. I'll admit I was very surprised and disappointed. I showed Nina, and she was so angry too on my behalf. So I tried to call Peter, but he didn't answer and instead texted me shortly after asking if everything was okay. By this point, I was really irate and said it wasn't okay and asked when he'd planned to let me know I wasn't the best man any longer. He rang me back and then said he did not want to offend me, but asking his brother seemed to be the best solution since I live out of state now and we don't talk anymore. I got angry and then pointed out that he was the one to stop reaching out. Isn't that a two-way street, though? Then he got defensive and said the last one to make contact was him, and after that, he'd begun to match my effort. And if I didn't like that, then it was my own problem. I'd argue that a true friend, upon not hearing from their supposed best friend for 5 months, would possibly reach out, especially when that friend is undergoing some large life changes. Apparently, Peter didn't agree and said we've just grown apart. But if I wanted to attend the wedding as a guest, he'd still love for me to be there for old time's sake. I declined and said he should tell his fiancée to remove our acceptance from her website or however that works. Peter just said, if that's how you want to be. I hung up at that point, and Nina comforted me in my frustration and helped me word a text back to Peter expressing that I was hurt already and that he showed no interest in my life anyway, and to be dropped from the wedding party after only a few months of low contact was unacceptable, and that shows the kind of people he and his future wife are. Peter texted back after a while saying it's gone on a lot longer than that, and that inviting me had just been as a courtesy, but the invitation was rescinded due to my being a raging asshole, which I think is incredibly unfair. Why do you give a shit? You said you didn't want to go. So was I a raging asshole, or am I right to think it is incredibly rude and hurtful of Peter? Oh my God. This is a two-way street, OP. You can't be pissed off at him for not reaching out to you when you didn't reach out to him. And you can't be pissed off about him rescinding his invitation because you already said you were rescinding your RSVP. What is this tit-for-tat, one-up bullshit? Get over yourself, OP. You sat there and stewed this whole time that your friend hadn't reached out. And instead of you reaching out to them, you just chose to be angry that they hadn't reached out to you. Fun fact, I've had this happen to me. I was asked to be the best man in a wedding, and then life went 2 separate directions, and I get an invitation for the wedding, and I am no longer the best man. And you know what? It didn't hurt my butt at all, because I got it. I'm like, life has gone 2 different directions. We haven't really talked that much. I get it. Also, that's your choice. It's your wedding. Did not matter. Ah. Hey there, it's Dusty Thunder with another Reddit story for you. This one is actually not from Reddit, though. It is a follower-submitted story. And the title of this one is, Am I the Astronaut for Kicking My Father-in-Law Out of the House? I, 31 female, kicked my father-in-law out of my house this weekend, and he said I was overreacting and he did nothing wrong. Never heard those responses before, ever. My father-in-law is a very difficult man. A little background, he has been divorced 2 times and alienated his entire family except his only son, my husband. He is very much, it's my way or the highway, and he is always right, classic narcissist, and will tell you to your face that you're wrong. He's also very into politics, and if you don't agree with him, he will argue with you until you give in. Oh, love being around these kinds of people, said no one ever. He is very hard to have a conversation with because it's usually always about politics and it's very unpleasant. I swear this is why he isn't married or gets past more than 1 date with a woman. He truly has no friends or family who will try with him anymore except us. We barely can handle more than 1 day around him. I really do try on behalf of my husband to get along and be nice to his dad. He really appreciates it because he knows how difficult he can be. A little over a month ago, we found out we were pregnant for the first time. We have been doing fertility treatments and the 3rd round finally worked. Wow, 3 rounds. Unfortunately, about a week after we found out that my HCG levels became abnormal and it was likely that that we would miscarry. My appointment for early ultrasound happened to fall on the same day my husband was supposed to take my father-in-law for a medical procedure. My husband, of course, wanted to go and be with me in case it was bad news. He called his dad and told him he couldn't take him anymore because we had an appointment and would more than likely miscarry our baby. My father-in-law was livid. He said he had no one else to take him. His own fault, I feel, for running everyone in his life off, and can't believe that I would inconvenience him this way. Why can't I move my appointment to another day? His appointment was booked first. I couldn't believe he would say that to us. My possible miscarriage was an inconvenience to him. I was an inconvenience. I was already upset with our news, and this made it 10 times worse. My husband tried to work it out that he had to go with me to my appointment and then drive over an hour to take his dad, which I didn't want anyway in case it was bad news. His dad refused and angrily said he would try to reschedule. Our appointment comes, and we did have a miscarriage. I was so thankful my husband was there with me. He told his dad, and all his dad said was he got his appointment rescheduled. This guy, just this guy. That's it. There's a new level on the ass cunt scale. It's called this guy. And it only applies to this guy. I've never been so angry with someone that I was with his dad. He was extremely hurtful to me in one of the worst times of my life. Fast forward to now, a few weeks later, I see my father-in-law for the first time since everything happened. He never apologizes and doesn't say anything to me about what happened. He was his usual jerk self all weekend. He even said a few comments about babies and kids for us. I kept my distance and didn't talk or say much to him and ignored the comments. He finally calls me out and wonders why I'm so quiet this weekend. I was being a little rude, apparently. I just simply said I was still upset over my miscarriage. He said he didn't know why because it wasn't that big of a deal. Did I mention this guy? I wasn't the one who had to move appointments for it. I lost it and yelled at him about how much his comments hurt me, and I was sorry I inconvenienced him, but he can get out of my house. He tried to argue that I was being unreasonable and rude, but my husband agreed with me and told his dad how hurtful he was to us, and he needed to leave. I felt bad because his dad will probably hold a grudge and stop talking to my husband. I know I'm emotional and hurting, and maybe I overreacted, but I don't think I did. Super overthinker over here. Help me put my mind at ease that I'm not the asshole here. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get her feedback on this. The incomparable Khaleesi, Queen of Dragons. Candy, Thunder, first of her name, Stormborn. Okay. Okay.
First of all, I feel incredibly bad for you, OP. This is a follower submission, so one that was sent directly to us, and one, welcome to the club that nobody wants to be a part of because it sucks. So I feel incredibly bad for you. Two, the story made me icky, made me feel icky, even though this is the second time that I've heard it, but you said you wondered if you overreacted. I think that you underreacted. The moment that this guy was throwing a fit about the appointments, your husband should have said, absolutely not, because he cannot go to an ultrasound appointment where there's a possibility of you losing your child and then drive an hour away to take his dad somewhere. That should have been the stop. Like, that should have been, you are not taking your dad. You are going with me. This is our child. Like, your dad can get an Uber. He doesn't need to have you drive him around. Like, ugh. I'm a little bit like, ugh.
Like, I don't know what else to say other than this guy, except for this. OP, right now, the only thing holding you back from thinking maybe there's a slim chance that you might be an asshole because your husband's dad is going to hold this grudge over him and probably not talk to him. Your husband's dad not talking to him would be the greatest blessing that your family could ever have. Ever. Just think about it this way. Like, the whole 0 is greater than -1 statement applies here. But this isn't just a -1. He's a negative influence to your husband. He's a negative influence to you. I hope that you get to a point where you are able to have a child and grow your family that way. He would be a negative influence to that child as well. He doesn't get to be a part of your life or your journey or your joy. Because you are only an inconvenience to him, which tells you everything you need to know about this guy. He is a drain on every single person that he touches. That's why he's alone. Do not let him be the last thing that he leeches onto.
Do not. He's a dark cloud, and that's why he has no one left. Do not let him back into your home. Do not let this man around any future children that you will have, because You're going to have them. I feel it. I want it for you. Do not let this man around your children. Don't even let him walk through your doorstep again, because no. He does not deserve to be in your presence, and he does not deserve to be in his son's presence. He needs to get the hell away from you guys.
Hey there, it's Dusty Thunder with yet another Reddit story for you. This one from AITA H is titled, Am I the Astronaut for How I Reacted When My Son Bullied a Girl with Cancer? I, 38 female, have a 15-year-old son who is going to be a sophomore after this year is over. I gave birth to my son when I was 23 years of age. Unfortunately, my son's dad left when he was 5 and never came back. I have not heard from his dad in years. Recently, my son has been getting into trouble. Quite frankly, I am at my wit's end. I am at a loss. My son made new friends that have been nothing but trouble. On May 9th, my son bullied a girl who lost her hair. She is going through chemo. The girl was sitting in her seat, and my son decided to rip her scarf off. He and his friends said very mean things to her. The poor girl was already getting bullied, and my son exacerbated it. She was humiliated. I was called to the school. They brought my son and the girl into the office. I arrived there shortly after they called me. The teacher and principal explained the situation. The mother of the girl that he bullied was at the school as well. I asked the mother for her number. I gave her my number. I told her that if she needed anything, to not hesitate to ask. My son was given 2 days of ISS for bullying. My son and I got home, and I was furious. I lost my mind. I went to his room and took every electronic. I took his PS5, his MacBook, and his iPhone 13. I took his name brand shoes, his name brand jackets, his Hollister jeans, and his Nike shirts. I grounded him indefinitely. 3 days later, I sold his electronics at a very marked down price. I bought my son Walmart clothes and Goodwill shoes. He will not bully someone and get away with it. I gave the money to the mother so she could buy her daughter a wig. The only things my son has in his room are his bed, drawers, mirror, and a shelf of books. I even confiscated his art supplies. My son is not allowed to leave the house at all during the summer. He is not allowed to hang out with his friends either. He is never allowed to speak to them again. My family on my mother's side is not talking to me because of this. I know that it's been 2 weeks. I just feel like there was a possibility that I was too harsh. Am I the astronaut? Dizam. I think it's warranted. But I think what you did is warranted. However, I think this is a prison sentence, right? This is a punishment. There has to also be some kind of improvement from this, right? There has to be some kind of how are you going to get him to see how wrong it was what he did and understand how wrong it was and understand that his life choices to get to this point, or the life choices were to land him where he's currently at, how they're wrong. And maybe it's a pain creates change thing, and this is the ultimate pain. And yeah, I agree. Do whatever you need to do there to create that, because this is just horrible. When your kid is doing ask on one behavior, do what you need to do to take corrective action for that. I'm just wondering if this is enough. Not that it's not worthy of the crime, but that it's not enough to change him. What else could be done in this situation to show a kid, help them understand how bad it was? I don't know. Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of make him shave his head comments in there. I think there's probably a point where you would get into where you would get into what could be considered some kind of abuse. You could take this to that point for sure. Definitely want to stay away from that 100%. And I don't think you're enforcing what you want to enforce here too. I think you want to create a bridge of empathy, right? So the volunteering at a cancer center, I think, is a great freaking idea. I think that's the kind of character building thing here that I'm looking for to add on to this. And the punishment that he's got is he needs to understand how severe it is. I think offering a rope with that so he can prove himself worthy to climb out of this prison sentence is important. I think there's got to be some kind of here's a chance. This is a pivotal moment for a young man, right? And I've had to have a conversation with a kid before who had some terrible things to say to one of our daughters. And I said, look, you get to wake up every day and choose what kind of man you're going to be. You get to wake up every damn day and choose who you're going to be today. And you do that by every time you make a decision, making the decision that takes you closer to being that man. That's it. Every moment you're going to be faced with a decision. Choose the one that takes you in the direction you want to go. What you said the very first thing in the morning, that was the man you wanted to be today. Just decide at every turn to be him, and you will end up getting closer to there. And that's the same kind of thing I think this kid needs to learn, but he's got to learn that by doing, right? You don't just tell somebody that and they're like, okay, and then they make all the right decisions. I think you give them a little bit at a time to learn and to build upon here. And that is the part of this that I was looking for, because otherwise it feels just like a prison sentence. And I think that's tough. I think the chances of that sticking and that actually leading to an improved life for your child are limited. Hey there, it's Dusty Thunder with another story for you. This is a follower submitted one, and it goes like this. Am I the astronaut for not wanting a cake and getting mad at my parents for making one for me when I specifically asked them not to? I, 22 male, do not like cake. Way to rip out my soul with your opening line, you monster! I used to like cake when I was a kid, but I'm a grown adult now and I've been trying to cut out sugary items like cake. So my birthday is coming up and my parents have been asking me what flavor of cake I want because my mom, female 52, is usually the one who makes a cake for me. I'm currently living with them. I told her politely that I didn't want her to make me a cake this year because I'm not about any of that anymore. For some reason, this upset my mom. She's ridiculously dramatic, and my dad, male 50, ended up approaching me about it, saying the way I spoke to my mother was extremely rude, and she just wanted to make me a cake. I wasn't rude. I was just sharing what I wanted on my birthday, and that was for there to be no cake. This incident caused a lot of tension between my parents and I, and my mom approached me about it again. This time she said, I'm making you a cake. You don't have to have any, but we still want some for the party. And I lost it. I told her she couldn't follow simple instructions and that this was not what I wanted. I think OP just became the asshole. She wouldn't respect my boundaries. She got upset and let out the waterworks, of course, and my dad came to talk to me again, fuming, upset that I was acting like a brat. I told my dad that I set boundaries and they were disrespecting them. My dad berated me for yelling at my mother, and I told me that I need to watch myself. I told him I just didn't want any cake. It wasn't that serious, and they were making it into a ridiculous situation. So my dad ended up saying that unless I apologize to my mom and give her a cake flavor to make, he's going to return the expensive watch they bought for me for my birthday. I think this whole situation is ridiculous, and they're being extremely stubborn and disrespecting my wishes. It's my birthday. I should be deciding how things go. Plus, that watch is already mine since he bought it for me, so I know he won't return it. Am I the astronaut here? I feel I am well within my rights to refuse a stupid cake, and they can't just return my watch. Okay. How old was OP? OP's 22, going on 13. What the hell? The only person in this story who I think played it correctly was mom, because she said, I'm going to make a cake. You don't have to have any, but we want some there for the party. That's it. OP, this is follower submission too. OP, I'm sorry, but this came off as very entitled and disrespectful. And you're willing to punish other people because you have a preference. And while you can choose not to partake in cake, forcing that on everyone else is an asshole move. And also, the way that you responded to your mom and said that she couldn't follow simple instructions, you commanded her around. It's disrespectful. Now, your dad didn't help. Your dad did not play this right, because he came in and said, give her a cake flavor. And I agree that you need to apologize, but the whole give her a cake flavor thing, I'm disconnecting the you from the cake. I'm just letting you know there's going to be one there. Dad is like, you're still connected to the cake. And I think it's a bit conflicting to the overall theme here. So I'm saying dad kind of went astray. Mom handled it well. OP, you're being an asshole. Let them eat cake. You don't have to. But this was entitled, and it was disrespectful. Yeah, treating his mother like the way he commanded her around. Like, he's still living with her at 22, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that, as long as you're being respectful to them. But you're like one of the freaking Dursleys here, barking at her. Can't even handle simple instructions. I said no cake. Okay. All right, pal. We're still going to Chuck E. Cheese, though, right? Good gravy. Not a fan. Hey, Dusty Thunder here, and I wanted to thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed that content, and if you did, please make sure to like, subscribe, and most importantly, share. Also, you can find swag and so much more at dusty-thunder.com, and you'll find even more content on all of our platforms. We're on TikTok, YouTube. We now have an official Facebook page that we'll be posting stories to as well. We have podcasts on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and so much more. You can see all of our content platforms on Linktree, which is linked in my bio. Engage with us wherever you're enjoying content and do your best to avoid the Askonauts today. Thanks again.